The student wants to place Einstein's argument within its historical context. Okay, so we need to mention Einstein's argument. So when we read student's note, we're going to highlight that within the historical context. Okay, that's another important thing. Argument and historical context. So even though the question didn't say with the word and, I'm going to try to satisfy both conditions here. So the 5th Subtopic Conference on Physics was held in 1927. Okay, so if it's about historical context, it's good to know that we have a past year, 1927. It brought together 29 of the era's preeminent, like famous scientists to discuss the emerging field of quantum theory. So I think that's good to mention the relative historical context. So this quantum theory is arising. That's what the emerging is. So okay, so something around the emerging field of quantum theory and maybe the 1927. Okay, so let's just keep those time period. The conference famously featured a debate between the physicist Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. Bohr proposed that the subatomic entities like electrons had only probable realities until they were observed. So that's Bohr's proposal, not Einstein. So let's read the next sentence. Einstein argued that the subatomic entities like electrons had a reality independent of observation. So that's what he proposed. So you can see that that doesn't match with Bohr's idea. So Bohr's position, later called the Copenhagen interpretation, remains the most widely accepted theory of quantum mechanics. Okay, the last sentence is not going to be important because we need to mention Einstein's argument within its historical context. So let's look at choice A. During the dawn of quantum theory. Dawn, okay, that's another way of saying emerging field of quantum theory. So it looks like we do mention the second part, the historical context. Einstein maintained the independent reality of some subatomic entities. So independent observation, independent reality, reality independent of observations of subatomic entities. Okay, subatomic entities. So we do see his argument. And then the next one is not so important. Okay, so I should not include the word though. But at least it does answer the question. The historical context and the argument. And the next one is not so important, although Bohr's opposing interpretation would become, okay, that's good to have, but at least we satisfy both conditions, so let's move on. Choice B at the end, at the 1927 Subtopic Conference on Physics. Okay, so it's tempting that we see a 1927 for historical context, but this is more, rather than historical context, this is more like specific date. If you want to talk about historical context, this is better, okay, than that. Because emerging field of quantum theory emphasize that this is a time that quantum theory is not fully stabilized and people are still researching and then learning about it. So instead of just mentioning 1927 when many things could happen, talking about emerging field of quantum theory as in choice A will be better historical context. And that ties up with how their arguments are heated, and because each person has their own evidence, and yeah, it's the time, so it gives a better historical. I like the word historical here, not just time context but historical context. Alright, but if you think that 1927 can be historical context, then let's read. Einstein disagreed with Bohr's argument. Subatomic entities like electrons had a reality. Okay, so here's the thing. When you see the word that, this is really referring to, this is a relative pronoun that qualifies the Bohr's argument. Is Bohr's who is it okay? Did Bohr say the subatomic entities like electron had a reality and independent observation? No, that's Einstein. So this is wrong. Okay, that's wrong. So B is not right. Okay, when you distort the given information, it makes no sense. Okay, right? So choice B is out. Choice C, attendees of the 1927 Subtopic conference were among preeminent scientists of the era, including Einstein, who opposed Bohr's proposal. But it doesn't talk anything about Einstein's argument. Okay, there's nothing about his argument that subatomic entities like electrons had a reality independent of observation. Nothing here. Okay, so we can move on. Again, 1927 is somewhat historical past date, but I'm gonna also say 1 and 2, right? So this one in choice B, I'm gonna say a wrong one. I mean, it does make argument, but it's a wrong argument, and also yeah, the historical context is weak. Okay. Yeah, I wanna say 2 is weak. Rather than saying no. Choice D, in 1927, Einstein and Bohr engaged in a famous debate. Bohr's argument, later called, would remain popular decades after. We're not seeing any specific Einstein's argument here, so if one fails, the other will fail as well. So choice A, cover both. That should be the answer.